Mark of the Deep is a top-down action dungeon crawler that just hit PC. The indie-developed title from Mad Mimic delivered in an entertaining and challenging journey that I'd fully recommend to gamers. It's the Dove here to give you an inside look on Mark of the Deep from Mad Mimic. This game starts you off in a simple-to-understand premise. Your boat got shipwrecked, albeit under some suspect circumstances, and your character is stranded on a mysterious island. Quickly, your character, Rookie, will discover that the entire crew of the Angry Mermaid is scattered across this island. Of course, it's his or your task to find everyone and to ultimately find a way off the island, which is, the main point of the game. Perhaps some people are going to draw some comparisons to Hades off the bat, but outside of the artwork and hard relying on the dash or dodge button, I'd say this game plays a lot closer to something like Death's Door. This is more of a dungeon crawl and doesn't have a lot of roguelike elements, if any at all. Rookie will have to trek across a sprawling Metroidvania-style map, one that forces the player to go back to some parts of the map they previously thought finished, only to discover a new tool or moveset will help them get to some hard-to-reach area. There are also plenty of areas where you'll have to just kind of push the boundary of the isometric camera in order to find some little hidden path. There are actually big areas of the game that you'll need to find in order to progress the main story that might not be entirely obvious to everyone. So looking for these can be equally annoying as it is rewarding to find them. That leads me to honestly the biggest criticism for the game, and to some it might not be a big deal, but the entire lack of a visual aid map is mind-numbing to me. I understand not wanting a detailed version of what your character traverses, but there are a lot of spots on the map you may want to go back to, and having an actual map would be a huge help in noting where you want to re-examine after getting some new abilities or gear. But that's just this gamer's opinion. The actual design of the map is extremely clever. They have a few different biomes, but it focuses on a darker setting overall. It fits the atmosphere quite well. It is a pirate game, it knows it's a pirate game, and the theme, characters, and island just reflect that. Now, the design of the game has a dash of Souls-like, with the checkpoint system basically refreshing enemies every time you visit one, and there's also that lack of direction that forces the player to literally read between the lines to figure out where they need to go. And on that note, I think the game does have a couple decent difficulty spikes, although nothing like Elden Ring. Let's just say if you don't have your player upgraded well, some of those boss battles could take you some time. With all those elements weaving together in a positive way, I found this game enjoyable, and I would recommend it to people who are looking for a more challenging dungeon crawler. Once you open things up, the combat is way more entertaining than the first leg of the game. The bosses increase their abilities, and as some of the better games do, the enemies actually become more aggressive the closer they get to defeat. The combat comes with the basic quick attack, strong attack, you got a charged attack, you can grapple closer to enemies, and you have a few different ranged attacks. There's no parry mechanic in Mark of the Deep, bucking the current gaming trends. This game focuses a lot on the dodge, your positioning, and overall crowd management. Mark of the Deep does a good job of throwing a lot of different enemies with multiple attack sets at the gamer. Whenever you feel like you have a handle on all the area's different enemies, one will pop up with a totally different timing and attack set. Gamers will have to stay on their toes with that variety of enemy attacks, but I will say the design of those enemies doesn't stray too far from skeletons and marine life. Not a knock on the game or design. Like I stated, Mark of the Deep knows what it is and what the setting is. The actual variation in how the enemies attack you and the different combination of enemy waves really makes this game a solid challenge. With the stimulating combat, good plotline, and absolutely nailing the setting, what this game might do best are the little puzzles or mazes you need to clear through to progress. There was nothing that felt absolutely impossible to solve or anything, and the few things that may have left you annoyed were usually just not having the right equipment or abilities, like in most Metroidvanias. Once you can unlock enough of your crew, you'll quickly find out that some of the main characters will actually be great sources of upgrades back at your base camp. It took me far too long to figure this one out, But as usual, my dumbassery is your benefit. Now, I don't want to litter my reviews with hints or spoilers, so what I will say is you're going to want to go back to your camp once in a while and speak to the crew members that you rescue. They're going to be the main source of your upgrades throughout the game, and there will be a couple other characters there that'll help as well. But again, speak to some of the crewmates that you come across and rescue throughout your journey. Mark of the Deep does a lot right, but outside the lack of map, one issue with this game was the voice acting. I'm no acting critic, but some of these just sounded completely emotionless and like they were being read through for the very first time. And again, I'm no expert and I'm not trying to dump on the game, I enjoyed it, but some of the accents just sounded muddled.
Oh, Rookie, I knew you'd come through for us. Words can't describe how it feels to be out of that blasted cage. Other crew members still alive? Aye, that's some exciting news for a change. I'll be heading to the ancient crossroads then and rendezvous with Black Eye. Keep your wits about you, Rookie.
There were a few good character actors in there that really brought it, and honestly, you're gonna be fine. There might be a few lines that also get messed in translation, but at least the overall story here that unfolds is an interesting one. The last critique I have would be the pacing in the first act. It took a while to get upgrades and abilities into the mix. This could have been me just sucking and not realizing who to talk to get upgrades, but I still felt like some of the treasure chests could have been filled with more loot that could be immediately used. Most of the time you find items that can be exchanged for upgrades down the line, so until you meet that character and open up trade, you're left with a 2-button dodge and attack format. Once you get your first gun and ability, the game feels like a whole different title, and when you unlock a quicker roll, the game feels magnitudes better. Still, this game feels like a creeper. It just takes a while to feel like you have all the tools to enjoy the game at its fullest potential. Despite those few gripes, Mark of the Deep is immensely fun. Yeah, it's going to maybe make you rip your hair out a little bit when you're lost, and the few upgrades take a while to get going, but Mark of the Deep just has that draw of a Souls-like where you're left to your own devices to figure things out, with that fun twist of a Metroidvania-style map that can honestly just leave you cross-eyed thinking about it. There's plenty of information to discover to help guide you, and the journal keeps plenty of info to help guide your journey. So the only thing holding you back is your own exploration, or rather a lack thereof. Mark of the Deep has that rigid style combat that I think a lot of fans of the Souls-like universe will enjoy, and they mix that Metroidvania feel that makes players go back that sprawling map and really explore the island. And I definitely believe fans of Death's Door or these new age dungeon crawling action adventure games will likely love this indie title. To sum up, I would recommend this game for a lot of gamers, but I can see it being frustrating to some. You gotta know yourself when it comes to games. As I said, if you enjoyed Death's Door, you'll likely appreciate Mark of the Deep. It might have a little more depth when it comes to movesets and abilities, but I personally will not speak poorly of Death's Door at all. That was a great title that I enjoyed to no end. If you like simple style action-adventure games, then I think there's a lot to like here as well. The upgrading system is pretty simple, but some of the abilities that you can mix together change the overall feel of the game. But it still retains those simple commands and nothing so convoluted that it paralyzes you during combat. This title just feels like it knows what type of game it is, and it knows its surroundings. There might be a few bugs here and there, but honestly this game played smoothly, and almost all of the frustration with the game was due to my own lack of skill or knowledge. And that brings me back to those who enjoy Souls-like, or that genre, where you really have to read between the lines and figure things out. I think you'll enjoy this one. Mark of the Deep is sitting at a $30 price tag before any sales. That might be too steep for some gamers thinking that this is just a quick little dungeon crawler or Metroidvania, but unless you already know where you're going to have to figure things out on your own, and you're going to have to explore. The developers have stated that the game runs around 20 to 25 hours to complete the main game. It most definitely will take gamers at least that long. The difficulty spikes are there and there are no markers to point the way. And if you like that simple but fun dungeon crawler action adventure combat, then those hours will be enjoyable. Mark of the Deep is currently available on Good Old Games and Steam for PC. The release date for the PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch, and the Xbox Series are set for 2025, but they have no exact date as of this video. Thanks for watching. Feel free to leave a comment or hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. And if you haven't subscribed yet, consider clicking the subscribe button now. We have more videos like this and have a weekly gamer news podcast called The Gamer Buff, with all the latest gaming news. Thanks again for watching. Until next time, this is the Dub.